Hello, everybody. What's going on? This is the first stream ever. So definitely I'm going to make a lot of mistakes doing this. And that's just going to happen. So we'll get better as we keep going. But yeah, I'm excited to be here. So today the goal is for us to do some online arbitrage sourcing for books specifically. And yeah, we're going to see how it goes. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and I'm just going to do some normal sourcing, kind of like how I would do if I was here. You know, how I would go about buying books on eBay using FlipMine, or trying to find books on Amazon using the Keepa Deals page, or anything like that. So let's just get right into it and let's get started. So let me share my screen here. Share screen. Let's see what that looks like there. Okay, so hopefully you should be able to see my screen now. All right, looks like you can. All right, let me go ahead and enable this. I think that would be better. Let's see. I have a laptop over here so I can see what's going on. Okay, so I think that looks good. Hopefully y'all can hear me. Let's see. So if you are here, if you could just say something in the chat so I know someone's here. But okay, let's go ahead and get started. So we're gonna do some sourcing. Maybe let's start sourcing here on FlipMine. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, FlipMine is a software that tries to find books, or really any product on eBay, to flip on Amazon. And it's basically trying to do something very simple, which is to find something undervalued on eBay so that you can flip it over on Amazon. So I'll kind of go through what I have a couple different book searches that I use, and you can feel free to copy them if you want. But I play around with them all the time. There's a ton of different things that you could do with FlipMine, but here's kind of how I use it. So I look for used condition books where the Amazon price is greater than 85, and I'm looking for sales ranks less than 2 million. And so I know a lot of you are probably thinking like, wow, Joji, 2 million sales rank, that's pretty high. And it is pretty high. But one thing that I've noticed over time is that, sales rank definitely is not, it's not the best indicator of how often a book is selling, nor is it, super, I should say, nor should you just be relying on the sales rank. You should really be relying on Keepa. So basically, these are the parameters that I've used, and we can just go and do some live sourcing. So one thing that you'll notice is that a lot of these things are red already, and that just means that I'm restricted in them. I can't sell them. And a good question people ask is like, why are you restricted in some books? A lot of the times you're restricted in popular books that are highly likely to be counterfeit. So for example, this DSM-5 book is a book that's likely to be counterfeit, and therefore it's restricted. So yeah, let's just go ahead and let's just go and look through some of these listings. What I'm really looking for is a high ROI, because that's not necessarily going to be super accurate, but it gives me like a, sort of like a news flash, like, hey, this is something you should look at. So what I would do is I'd kind of just look at what the ROI is, and then I'd maybe just go and open up both listings. So if I open up the eBay listing here at 180, and I go over here to Amazon, I can see, this book right now is listed for 223, used and collectible. So for me, like, automatically I would just jump off this book, because like I wouldn't continue looking at this. Just there's not enough price differential for me to want to buy that book. So I would just keep going down. And really the goal here is actually to find books that are newly listed. Let's see this book here. So we have 320% potential ROI. So let's go and take a look. So we can buy this book on eBay for $52. And you'll notice, wow, this is crazy. The buy box is actually $560 on Amazon. Totally unrealistic, but it is there. So you can buy this book for $30 on Amazon. So I wouldn't even, bother looking at eBay anymore, because you can buy this for cheaper on Amazon. But, this is a book that even at $30, I wouldn't want to buy, because you can see that for a good part of the year, you could have bought this book for $5, $10. So this is not something that has a great Keepa chart that I want to keep looking at. So, I just keep going down and trying to find books that I can flip. Now, this is a book that I actually have flipped before. And let's go and take a look at the Amazon listing. Definitely $300 is too much money to buy this for, but you can see that in the past, this book has sold for up to $600. And I actually have sold this book for, I think, just under $600. So right now at $300, that's probably not enough of a price differential, but just know that there are some books out there that are very, very valuable and sell for a lot of money. Okay, let's look at this one. Potentially 91% ROI. Doubt that that's probably going to be realistic, but let's see. So this is actually, you can either bid on it or you can buy it now. So it looks like, let's see what we got here. But you can also buy it new on Amazon for $24. So this is interesting because recently there's been this massive repricing war between new and used offers, and so the price is actually kind of bottom out. But interestingly, this book was selling a lot for, $185 plus. And probably the reason why this price has tanked is because this is a 2022 course book and it's basically almost done with 2022. So probably there is a newer edition and that's why the price has gone down. So also that's a book I wouldn't want to buy. And you'll notice that it's like, wow, this seems pretty hard. Like, yeah, it's definitely, when it comes to sourcing, there are definitely great deals, but at the same time, there's a lot you have to go through, right? There's a lot of listings you have to look at before you find one. Here's an example of a listing that probably is a good deal because it's already out of stock. Like the listing ended $251, so that was like a little over an hour ago. Well, let's see why someone would have bought this. Also, there's a best offer accepted. Now, unfortunately, eBay doesn't tell us what the best offer was. I would assume it's probably like $30 or $40, but like if you looked at this Keepa chart, let's say you picked this up for like $40. Let's say you picked it up for like $40 plus shipping. So over here, I'm on a Chrome extension called SellerAmp. This has an FBA calculator where you can kind of put in the cost price and what you think you can sell the book for, and it spits out like a potential profit. So this Keepa chart looks like has had some pretty high sales here, for over $100. So if you were to buy this for $40, I think that there's probably definitely a chance that you can sell it for more than what it's listed at right now. And you can actually see the used buy box is 128. So let's actually see. Yeah, there's one copy at 65 and then it goes up to 99. So let's say you bought this for $50 and let's say you just sold this for $99, like this would give you a $31 profit. And so that's definitely a book that I would be interested in, but I would also probably want to check to make sure that certain things are in order. Like I would obviously want to make sure that I'm eligible to sell it. And then another thing you have to make sure is like, is this book highly likely to be counterfeit or not? So one way that I do that is I use this book counterfeit probability check. It's on Books Run, and if you're over on SellerAmp, you can just click the ASIN and copy it there. Or if you don't have SellerAmp, you can just come down and copy the ISBN. But basically, if you go ahead and you paste that into Books Run, then it'll go ahead and show you if it's likely to be counterfeit or not. So let's see if I guess I'm not a human because I can't even pass this. This is a robot test. Let's see. Crosswalks. Okay, so you can see, let's go and check. So now it says that we're unlikely to be counterfeit. So I would definitely want to go through that to make sure that that the book isn't likely to be counterfeit, because if it is, then you kind of run the risk of potentially having your Amazon account suspended if you're selling. Your intention is not to sell a counterfeit book, but if there's a book that's likely to be counterfeit and it is counterfeit when you sell it and it gets caught, then your account can definitely be suspended or even shut down if you do it enough times. So I would say that probably would have been a good deal if you could have picked it up for $40 for sure. But what you'll notice with FlipMine is that all the great deals are going to go pretty much instantly. And the reason for that is there's other people doing this. There's other people using different softwares as well that are not FlipMine that are sourcing eBay. And so this is a really interesting book because you can buy it for $389, which is crazy. But look, Keepa shows that it's sold for, I don't know if it's just, this must be $1,500, that sales rank drop. If not, it would have been either $960 or $1,000 there. Sold here for about $1,100, sold there for $800. And then there have been times where this book was new at like as low as $120, sold there for $360. So wow, this book is interesting because you could have bought it for $50 back in 2020, and then the price skyrocketed, like literally tripled in a few months. So this is definitely like one of those books that for whatever reason, I have no idea why this book is so popular. I'm sure somebody out there does like know why this would be so popular, but yeah, I mean, this book has sold for some pretty insane amounts of money, and even the buy box is $1,500. So, I would bet that you could probably sell this and make a little bit of money on it. I don't know how realistic it would be for you to expect to sell for $1,000, but there are, like I said, definitely sales here at some pretty insane amounts of money. So this might be something that you'd actually want to contact the seller about. Now it looks like because they listed it for so high, they probably know what they got. So I doubt that you're gonna find like you're gonna get a great deal out of this. But one thing that you can do is you could contact the seller, and maybe they'd be willing to take like $300 for it or something like that. But this book definitely doesn't sell a lot. Like, sales rank only drops maybe about 10 times out of the year. But that's definitely some potential. One strategy that you could actually use for this is to track the product for if it ever comes back in stock new. Because one thing that we know about this book is once this book is no longer sold new, it has a ton of value, right? The used price jumps, it literally triples in the span of a couple of months. So one thing you could do is you can come over here to the track product feature if you have the Keepa subscription, and then you can track this Amazon new and third-party new. So like, let's say you wanted to track it for $55, you could track it for 3 years. And what's going to happen is basically if that ever happens where the new price gets that low, then it'll send me an email and I'll get a little notification popped up on my screen here, and then from there maybe I could potentially buy it. But yeah, this is an interesting book because it's so valuable now. But okay, let's just keep going. I doubt that we're going to find many great deals because these are now older listings. Like I said, listings that are really good are going to be gone pretty quickly. But this is a book here on eBay for $98. Right now, you can buy it for cheaper on Amazon for $67. So there's no point in looking at it anymore. And this is kind of a book that I'd probably just click out right away because you see that it's only sold about 3 or 4 times. So it's probably not going to sell. And plus, where the price point is at, it doesn't really make sense. Let's go look at this one, 54%. Okay, so $89 we could buy this book for. On Amazon, $149. So there's some potential here. But let's go and let's just kind of see. Let's do a little bit of analysis. So I can automatically tell you that right off the bat, this is too much money for me, solely for the fact that like you could have bought this book for a couple months less than what you can buy it for on eBay now. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean we don't want to buy. It just means that there's probably more risk associated with, buying this book, only because you're really buying for a price that's higher. It's not, it's higher than what it was during the year, so you're not maybe really truly buying it undervalued. But like, let's say, if you came across this book and it was like $40 or $50, which would be undervalued, then definitely, we would maybe want to look at this. Hi, Janae. Did I say that right? Janae, welcome. Thanks for showing. I appreciate the support and coming out. If I mispronounce your name, I'm sorry, Janae. But hello. Okay, so for me at $89, definitely not a pickup. And like I said, I have this sell around calculator, so you could put in the cost, $89.50. Let's see, $89.50. And what could you realistically, what do you guys think you could realistically sell this for? Like, you're looking at the Keepa chart, it has, I don't know, 10, 15 drops? Like, what do you think we could sell this book at? Right now, the used buy box is $149. And there are definitely recorded sales at that, $145. But there's also recorded sales a little bit higher, as high as $200, and also, as low as $86. Let's go back and look a little bit further back into the listing, and let's see what's up with this book. Looks like it does have a history of selling for over $100. And if we look at the used offer count, which is this on the bottom here, you actually see that historically the used offer count is lower than normal. One thing that I love to do when I'm analyzing deals is just kind of look back into history and kind of look at what was the book selling for when the used offer count was higher, or what was it selling for when the used offer count was what it's at right now. And because that gives you an indication of, has there ever been a time in the past where this book did kind of just really tank out? Like, is this a book that if I buy it today will be a good buy or not? That's one way to know that. So for me, $89 is not enough. It's not undervalued enough, but maybe like if this were at $40 to $45, I would consider buying it. because it has a great history in the past of selling for over $100. So I think if you were to pick this up for 45, I think you could probably realistically sell this for like $130. And the reason why I say that is because there's a whole cluster of sales over here when the used offer count was about 8 or 9. And that's kind of what the used offer count is right now. And there were also a couple sales recently. So I think you could totally sell this book for 130. Now, it doesn't have the best sales rank, so it might take a little while for it to sell, but I think if it were at that price, that'd be a go. So one thing you could do is try to contact the seller and send them a message, but I probably wouldn't do that because they're just too far away. They're just too far away. Okay, so one tip for you if you are using FlipMine is you should totally download a Chrome extension called Easy Auto Refresh. Let's see, it's like this. You just add it to Chrome. It's super simple to use. Basically, up here in the browser, what you would do is just click on your extensions and you click Easy Auto Refresh, and you can refresh your screen every certain amount of time. So for example, like if I'm looking at if I want to look at listings that are super new that are popping up, then I would probably set it for like 90 seconds or 60 seconds. And what that means is every 90 or 60 seconds, this page is automatically going to do this, which is refresh on its own. And what I've found is that the best deals are definitely going to be the newest deals. So I'm not going to go too much further down here because, like I said, I would bet that the better deals have probably already gone. Let's just look at let's look at 2 or 3 more books actually. Let's look at this one, How the West Was Worn. Okay, so this actually was sold with the best offer. Let's see. Interesting. So $80 plus the best offer. We don't actually know what it sold for, but I'm actually apparently tracking this book. What am I tracking it for? 35 new. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, this book has a lot of recorded sales at $90, $80, $135. So this is definitely a book that has value, but definitely I would not buy anywhere near $80 for sure, because I mean, history shows that it probably sells for around $80 or $90. I mean, that's what the actual buy box is. So I'm curious what this person accepted, because what would I actually offer this person? I mean, I think I'm selling this book for $90. I would say like max I would want this book with shipping is probably like $40. Because, you know, generally when you look at books that don't have amazing sales ranks, like this one has a better sales rank for sure. But when you're buying books that don't have great sales rank, which means they don't sell all the time, then you probably want a higher ROI, just, you know, because there's more risk associated with that book. It's gonna take longer to sell, and you want to make sure that if the price comes down and you sell it, you still make money. So I would say all in, I'd want to be $40 on that book. So I'm curious what they accepted the offer there for, but that is interesting. So you can see when I came back, this was at the top of the page because Easy Auto Refresh refreshed my stream. But there are a couple more books down here that I wanted to look at, and then we'll go into some other settings, and we'll try some other sourcing techniques as well. So let's go ahead and see. I like this one. This one says 82%. This one says 78%. So let's just look at these last 2, and then actually let's look at these last 3, and then we'll look at some other settings. Okay, so we can buy this for $41 on eBay. Zuber is a seller that has a lot of books that you probably will end up buying. So let's go ahead and let's see. So you can buy this for $40 on eBay, but on Amazon you can actually buy it for $22. So obviously the better deals on eBay. And what you actually notice is that the price of this book back in November 9th, which is just 3 days ago, is $80. Then it dropped down to $30, and now it's at $22.79. So this is actually an interesting maybe Amazon to Amazon flip, because what you'll notice is that since April, there have been a lot of sales, some of which have been well over $100, some as low as like $68. So right now, this might actually be an undervalued book. Let's see, $22 plus shipping, Awesome Books USA. So it looks like these 2 people are competing for the lowest used price right now. There is a prime offer at $40, which is also interesting. $43, $47. So there actually are quite a number of sellers at this lower mark, but probably the reason why we see this is recently there's been this uptick in used offer count. So you can actually see that when this book was selling for over $100, used offer count was like between 3 and 5. And then all of a sudden when the price dropped, you know, there's 14 or 15 people on the listing. So these added sellers are what kind of bring the price down. Now, what's interesting to me, though, is that in the past, December and January, this book has sold for $12 and $13. Basically, as soon as it came into stock, someone bought it. And if we look further into history, we have sales kind of all over the board, as high as 60 or 70. but then also as low as, how low is this here? As low as like $9 or $10. So this is an interesting book. Probably the reason why I wouldn't buy this book though is because of the used offer count. You can see that even though we can buy it for, let's see what, $26, like that's what we could buy it for, $26.77. Used offer count is creeping up. It's now up to about 14, and there is an Amazon FBA seller at 40. So what are the other Amazon FBA sellers at? 40, 56, 93. Yeah, so I mean, even if you came in and you sold at 56, which is probably honestly realistic, you can make a little bit of money, but I would probably stay away from this book only because the used offer count is creeping up for me. But something that I will do is set a tracker, because if this book gets to, I would say this book gets to like $15 with shipping included, I'd probably buy the book. So what I'm gonna do is actually track the product. I'm gonna come over here and track it for a used price of $15. And then basically I'm gonna get notified if that ever happens. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, interesting book though. And you'll find this a lot of times, like FlipMine will find you books that you actually end up buying in other marketplaces, because it turns out that the price on eBay is actually not the cheapest price available. Okay, let's look at this one, $71 by Thrift Books. You're gonna buy a lot of books from Thrift Books if you're doing this method. Flip eBay to Amazon. 71. Okay, so you can buy it for 68, basically the same price. I already know that this is a book I wouldn't want to buy, because I mean, you could basically buy it for this price throughout much of the year. There were a couple times where the book sold. I mean, here it sold for $279, and it looks like it sold a couple times in here for $284. But I wouldn't think that I could probably sell it for that, because you'll notice that hey Terry, how's it going? Nice to see you in the chat. But yeah, I wouldn't want to buy this book for $70, because I mean, I could have bought it for $63 in July and August. So, if we look a little bit further back, there's some sales that are maybe up there at 150, 160, but yeah, $70 definitely would not be a buy for me. Okay, let's see this. Not Fade Away, $39.99. There is a make offer, which is honestly awesome. I love when sellers have make an offer on there, because sometimes you get great deals to be willing to take less money. So again, this is a book that I probably wouldn't be interested in right off the bat, because again, like half the year, used price was around what we can buy it for now. So, why wouldn't we have just bought it back then if we wanted to buy it? So I'm not really buying an undervalued book by buying it for $39.99. And in my opinion, this person's actually priced way too high. And I know what y'all thinking. A lot of you are probably saying, well, why would FlipMine show me this book here and say that I can make, well, what did it say, $39 on this book when I really can't? And the reason for that is because you have to take into account that FlipMine is taking averages of the lowest used price. And you see that this book actually went up from $45 to $216 and then back to about $170. And it stayed there for 3 months. So basically, when FlipMine is taking the average price of this book, it doesn't actually know what the book was selling for. It just knows what the used price was throughout the year or throughout the 6 months, whatever you're tracking. And when it takes the average, it just says that's what the lowest used price was, regardless of whether or not it sold. So that's why this would show up in FlipMine. And that's what I mean about FlipMine, like not really being super accurate. Well, I guess it is accurate in this sense of taking the average, but it's not able to give you the data of like being able to overlap sales rank and use price to be smart enough to know whether or not like this price is really an outlier, if it should be that high or not. So definitely not a book that I would want to buy there. But I have some other filters, like I have a book search 1, so this was what I was using. Amazon price greater than 85, sales rank less than 2 million. And then I also have a book search 2 over here. And the book search 2 is just to look at books that have an Amazon price between $50 and $80. Also have the same sales rank, so kind of similar. Let's take a look at this book, because it looks like this was just recently listed. One thing that right off the bat kind of scares me is that this is acceptable. So I'm not sure if I'd want to buy it just right off the bat because it's acceptable. But let's just take a look at the book. And by the way, anything that we see today, I'm not going to buy. So I'm going to leave it all up to you if you want to buy it or not. I'll just tell you that so far from what I've seen, I wouldn't buy anything. But I'm also going a little bit slower because I'm trying to help you out, trying to walk through my thought process on things. But a lot of the times, like I would just immediately switch off of books. Like this is a book that I would close out of immediately. And one of the reasons is because if you look throughout most of the year, like you could have bought this book for less than what we can buy it for now. So why would you buy it now when it's more expensive? Now, what's interesting is that this book looks like it's a very heavy textbook season book. It sees this downward U shape in sales rank in January and February and September and October. So, definitely this book did sell for upwards of $50, $60. That's that. I wouldn't want to buy this book because I could have bought it for cheaper. So I'm not really buying an undervalued book, which is what I want to do to make money. I want to buy undervalued books. I don't really want to exploit textbook season, nor do I want to exploit big differences in the prime gap. I'm kind of just wanting to buy books that are undervalued. So in this case, this is not a book that's undervalued. So I would just skip that. Okay, this is interesting. $19.99 and the lowest use offer is $67. So for some reason, this isn't accurate. It looks like the eBay price is not $19.99. It looks like it's $29.99. Okay, this book might actually be good. Let's take a look at the Keepa chart. Let's see. Is it gonna load for us? Maybe not. One thing that looks good though is that right off the bat is the lowest use price is 54. So it's gonna refresh the page, and down here it's $30. So maybe this would be an undervalued book. Let's see if Keepa refreshes or not. There we go. Okay, so this book looks better than the other ones. I still wouldn't buy it at $30. But interestingly, in the textbook season during August and September, the price of this shot up to $100, and people were selling it for that. And actually, interestingly, if you look at the buy box, and you wanted to buy this used on Amazon from an Amazon Prime seller, it'd be $96. Now, here, let me tell you about the strategy that I see a lot of people use, which is there's nothing wrong with it, but I think a lot of people try to exploit the difference in the prime gap. And what I mean by that is they go, okay, I can buy this book for $29.99 like this. And then they think, okay, well, the buy box is $96.11, so why don't I just sell it for the buy box? And look, you made $42 profit. The only thing that I see wrong with exploiting the prime gap is that a lot of the times the prime gap might, by the way, when I mean prime gap, I mean the difference in price between the lowest offer, which is $54 plus shipping from a merchant seller, and the price of the prime seller. A lot of the times that prime gap is not really that, how should I say it? It's not really that realistic, because you have to put yourself in the perspective of a buyer, a customer. Would you really be willing to spend $40 more on a book to get it maybe in 2 days rather than 7 or 8 days? Definitely some people are. I've definitely done that, but I just don't think that it's the best strategy for you to try to exploit the prime gap like that. It's definitely a strategy that I would try to stack on top of buying books that are undervalued, but it's definitely not something that I'm going to ignore, but I wouldn't necessarily build my business model off that. And so what I mean by me probably not buying this book for $30 is, look, if you look in March, May, June, July, the price of this book was about $43, $45. That was the lowest use price. It went all the way down to $23 or $29. So historically, you could have bought this book for less on Amazon during specific times of the year, or maybe just buying it now would be a little bit slightly less than what it was priced at. So for me, this book isn't undervalued enough, but I would say that if this book were $19.99 like it said it was, or $20 like I said it would, then this is a book that I definitely would then consider buying, because the way that I see it is, if I buy this book for $20, I'm buying an undervalued book, because the lowest used price of this book, for a short period of time got down to $23, but mostly it's around $40 or higher. So for me at $20, that would have been a buy for me, but not at $29.99. And this person here could potentially be someone who would respond to messages. They might not be big enough. So you could contact the seller and say, hey, would you do $19? So something you could do is you just contact the seller here. And I don't want to log in with my account or anything like that. But yeah, you could send them an offer, and maybe they'll take it, maybe they won't. But that's probably the best book that I've seen so far that has potential. Let's just keep going. Let's see. I think we just looked at this book. This is interesting. 117%, 569%. So let's look at these books first. I didn't mean to open that in a new tab. Let's see. Or in a new window. By the way, how's everybody doing out there? I feel like I'm just talking all the time. we should, this is kind of more like a hangout session. So feel free to like, say something in the chat. I saw Janae and Terry say hello, so nice to see you. By the way, I'm looking at a screen over here because that's where I'm looking at the chat and everything. But if you have any questions, put them out in the chat. This is my first time doing this. I bet I'm doing this terribly. I'm making mistakes, but we'll get better as we do it more often. So if you have any questions, let me know. And I'll keep an eye on the chat section over there. Okay, so $17, Solar System Dynamics. Is that the same book? It looks like the same book. Okay, you can buy it for 36 over here. Okay, this is a book that right off the bat, I'm like thinking, okay, this is probably a book that I'm gonna buy. Why? Because I can buy it for $17 on eBay right now from Thrift Books. If I look at the used offer price, it's hovered at over, 38 at the lowest, and it's hovered up to $58, and $39. Another thing that I am seeing is that if you look at the used price, sorry, not the used price, if you look at the used offer count, you don't see like a massive, increase in the number of used offers, which is good. Generally, if you see a big increase in the used offer count, theoretically, what should happen is the price of the book comes down. So what we're kind of looking for is trying to buy a book that's undervalued, where the used offer count isn't really seeing a large increase. And you can actually see that over time, this used offer count has gone down. So historically, we're actually at a really low used offer count. Thanks, Richard. I appreciate it. Very valuable. I'm glad. Thank you. That's awesome. Okay, so this is a book that I probably would buy. Just some other checks that I would look at as: one, are you eligible to sell it? So yes, over here on Seller Amp, it says I can. One way for you to know is if you just had your phone out, like you could scan the image and it should tell you in the Amazon Seller Central app. Or the other way is that if you have Amazon FBA, Amazon Seller Central open, you could add a product and you could just go ahead and you could copy in the ASIN, or you could copy in the ISBN, and it would tell you if you're restricted or not. So if you're eligible to sell this, the other thing I would do is a counterfeit probability check. So again, this is just a counterfeit calculator on Books Run. Basically, what Books Run did was they looked at all the books that were highly likely to be counterfeit. Like these are actually books that, McGraw-Hill and Pearson found a lot of fake copies of that they now have in their database, and you can just copy the ISBN. So over here on Seller Amp, I can copy the ASIN, or I can scroll down and I can copy the ISBN, and I can go over here and just go ahead and paste that in. And they think I'm a robot, so I have to do that right now. But let's go ahead and let's check. So this says this is unlikely, which is good. We just don't want to be buying books that are likely or very likely to be counterfeit, because we just don't want to run into issues with our account health. This is not the book I'm looking at, this one. So I would say that for me, this checks out. What do I think I could sell this for? Well, I could buy it for $17. And again, I'm not going to buy this, but one of you should probably buy this book. $17. Like, what do we think we could sell this book for? I mean, I think, right now the used buy box is $75. You can buy it new for $88. I think that this buy box, considering the data, is totally reasonable. I think you could get that sell at $75 for sure. But, I would say if you want to be conservative, you'd sell this book for $60. And if you do, you make $23 profit on this book. But I would bet that you could probably sell it for $75 and you make $35 on it. So there we go. That's our first good flip that we found. And really with FlipMine, it's just a numbers game. Like, you're going to go through a number of books until you find something. And yeah, there's that. Some of the other things that you might want to look at is just to come back down here to make sure on eBay that the actual binding is the correct listing. So this is a paperback, and we're on the paperback listing, which is good. Now notice that if this was a hardcover, all of a sudden the Keepa chart for the hardcover is a lot different than the paperback. So you kind of do want to match them up. And this doesn't have any sales rank, probably because no one's willing to buy this book for $569. And then also, you couldn't even buy this book for the last year because there was actually just no used offer count. Like, no one was even selling this book. So let's say you did buy the hardcover. I don't think that, I do think you'd be able to sell it, probably, because look, when the price of this book was lower, there was a sell at $54, a sell at $138. Considering that the paperback is selling, I think you could definitely sell the hardcover, but obviously not at $569. You'd probably have to sell it for, $60, $70, just like the other things. So there's that. Let's see if someone bought it. I really hope someone bought it. No one's bought it yet. Okay. Well, if this is still here after the stream's done, maybe I'll go buy it because I definitely go buy that book. It's a good condition book. Okay, let's take a look at this book here. So this is the Amazon listing. Let's look at the eBay listing. So the last book we looked at is Solar System Dynamics, by the way. That's what the title is called. Hello from Florida. Nice to see you. I don't know how to, do I just say MSeg? Is that, I mean, that's just your YouTube name. I'm sure your name probably starts with an M, but hello from Florida. I'm actually in California, so it's a little bit later over there for you, but thanks for checking out the stream. I appreciate it. Okay, Thrift Books, $7. We can buy this book for $7. Okay. Now look at this book. Now this is a really interesting book right off the bat because lowest used price is $72. The buy box is $79. For the last 6 months, the book never sold, but the used price was also like $100. So maybe what we think is that was too expensive for someone to want to buy the book. But in December and January of the previous year, the book was selling for $90 plus, even up to $125. Then it looks like over here in October, we had a repricing war. So for those of you who don't know what a repricing war means, two sellers have a repricer that have a rule to try to win the buy box. And their rule might be to undercut the buy box winner by 50 cents or $1 or $2. And so you get this downward staircase in price over time. And in a short period of time, looks like about maybe 15 or 20 days, the price that you could have bought this book for went from $90 all the way down to like 20. And look, when that happened, someone actually bought the book here. Maybe it looks like the sales rank dropped twice. So there's two sales there. And then someone bought the other copy at $14 and then it jumped right back up to $67. So kind of what's interesting about this book is that when the book was $100, there wasn't any history of it selling in the past 6-9 months. There's two people buying it here. Actually 3 people buying it here. Could be those are actually people who need the book. My guess is it might actually be resellers because they maybe looked at the Keepa chart and said, hey, this book sold for over $100 in the past. Now, one thing that you should always do is look at the entire breadth of data, the entire history, because it should give you some it just gives you more information to kind of piece together what's happening with this book. And it actually, if you look, same sort of thing happened last year where you saw this huge period of time where the book didn't sell. And it looks like that's something that's a pattern of this book, that there's times where it doesn't sell. But what I'm getting at is this is probably a textbook season book. And you can see that all the sales came during December, January. And that's when textbook season was January. Regarding textbooks, do you have a method for checking if a new edition is pending? Oh, that's a great question. The only way that I would do that is I would just actually Google the book. So I'd actually Google the book, and right now this is the 4th edition. So maybe I'd Google that and type 5th edition and see if I can find it on a website that is actually like the publisher. So let's see who the publisher is of this book. This is by Kendall Hunt Publishing. So one thing you can maybe even do is type in the publishing company, and then what you could do is probably there's some way to search in their catalog. So we'd probably go to higher ed. There's probably a way to search in their catalog for an ISBN or an author. So what I would probably do is just type in the author name. So this guy right here, Johnny Silvius. And let's see what the results come back with. So you can see that there's only one result here. So you kind of just have to make educated guesses. Like for me, I think this is the newest edition. One, we looked at the actual publishing company's website. I don't see a newer edition. The second is I don't actually see anywhere on the Amazon page that there is a newer listing. Newer edition. Generally, if there's a newer edition, it'll actually populate here. It'll show you, you can buy this book on this listing. This is the newer edition. Another thing you can do is come down here and look at the date. So you see that this is from 2001. Generally, if a book is still selling and it's that old, it's probably unlikely that there's another new edition. Because if there were a new edition, this should have been phased out and this shouldn't be used anymore. And it varies by book because there are some books that have a new edition every year, and there are some books that have every 5 years. They're different patterns, right? So this book, I would think is definitely the newest edition. I can't be 100% sure of that. I have no idea if they have plans down the pipeline for this to come out, a newer edition, but I think that this is the newest edition for sure. I think one other thing you might be able to do is look to see if you can find the 3rd edition of the book. And what you could do is then, if you could find the third edition of this book, you might be able to go down to the product details and see when it was last published, and you might be able to establish like a pattern for how long it takes for a new one of these to be published. But yeah, I think this is probably the newest edition. That's a great question. So I just use my educated guess. I'm probably not right all the time, but I'm probably right most of the time. So the question is, should we buy this book for $7? Okay, I think you probably should buy this for $7, and here's why. If we take a look at the past historical data, you can see that back here, well, actually, now that I've done this again, maybe not. Let's see. So if we look back in January, you can see that we could have bought this book for about $4 or $5. You're welcome, Richard. That was a great question. And then the price went up to about 14 or 15. But what I'm not really interested necessarily in what it sold for. I'm interested in the fact that it sold, right? Just like Richard said, like this book is from 2001. So this is an old book, yet it has history of selling in 2022, 2021. And I guess what I'm trying to show you here is that the book sales mainly came in January here. And if we go back and we kind of look at this other data, it looks like most of the sales are grouped in the January time period. But one thing that, again, you notice is that the book's all over the place, right? It's been as low as a few dollars. It's been as high as $100. So, the thing though is that in order for you to be profitable on this $7 book, you don't have to sell it for $100 or even sell it for $79. Like if you were to buy this for $7, you'd probably only have to sell this for $29.99 to be profitable and make 100% ROI, which generally I try to make a lot more per book than just $7. But the point is, you could send this into Amazon. You could undercut the price and try to sell for $39.99 just to try to get a sell. I mean, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that you could sell it for upwards of $70 or $80, but yeah, that's something that you could potentially pick up. Okay, let's do a little bit of other sourcing. So we've looked at FlipMine. Definitely there are some good deals on FlipMine to be had. And I've only gone through a couple of these and I've done it pretty slowly, but if I were just to do this at my own speed, I would kind of do it this quickly. So I'll just show you some sourcing without me like saying anything. So like that's a book I would just automatically go out of. Okay, so these are just some 34, 61. There's not enough margin for me on that one. Let's see, 55. Optics. Looks like that's the wrong listing. Is that a hardcover? Let's see. Looks like this is the international edition. So one tip for you is that if you see this little new sticker on the top left, that's usually for an international edition where the seller has put a little sticker over it to hide the fact that it's the international edition. So in my opinion, it's a little bit misleading, and I don't think that you should do that, but people do that, so it's unfortunate. Okay, quantum mechanics. Where is this one? Yeah, that's what that book was, quantum mechanics. This book actually sold, so let's see if this person made a good buy. So they bought this for 15 plus 4, 41. So 1940 is basically what they bought it for. So let's actually see if they made a good deal here. Okay, this person made a great buy. So this is something that you should have bought if you were looking at FlipMine, because look, you bought it for $19.40. This book sells pretty much all day long throughout the year for about $50 as the lowest used offer. At times you could have had the buy box for the merchant or for the FBA seller. It could have been $60, $70, or even $80 if there was a bit of a prime gap. But this is a book that you want to buy because fundamentally, right, it's undervalued. You're buying something that's worth $50 for $20. So if we just put in kind of what it historically sells for, like we just said $45, like you're going to make a little bit of money. If you sell for $50, you might make 69% ROI. So again, not a book that is a home run, but let's just look at the prime offers. Maybe what you could do is, so it looks like there's only one prime sell for 55. So let's say you matched 55.33, then you're making $18. This book does sell pretty frequently. So like I said, considering that this data is pretty strong, like the lowest used price is pretty low, I think it's completely reasonable that someone would pay like $69.99 for this book. But again, I wouldn't bank on selling it for that. What I would do is try to buy the book undervalued, say, okay, I can sell it for $50. I'm going to make profit. And then on top of buying it undervalued, try to stack other things like seasonality or things like if there's a prime gap. But yeah, I think that was definitely a good buy by somebody for sure. So let's go ahead and transition. Let's do a little bit of Keepa deal sourcing, because we've done enough of this FlipMine sourcing. Hopefully you start to get the idea a little bit. And let's go and take a look at an Amazon page. So let's go back over to Amazon. I'm gonna go down to the Keepa chart down here. And again, if you have any questions, put them down in the chat. I'll try my best to answer. I'm definitely not an expert, but I do really enjoy flipping books, and I enjoy helping people. So if you have questions, let me know. Okay, so let's actually look at the find related deals, because I think the find related deals is probably the next best place to find book. Actually, take that back. If I had to rank them in order, FlipMine or Keepa deals, I'd actually probably go with Keepa deals. I like Keepa deals better than FlipMine because I think less people do it, and there's, I think, more potential. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do on the Keepa deals page. First, you literally just type in Keepa deals to get there, like this. And you can go to the Keepa Amazon tracker, and it's up here in the left, Keepa deals. Or what you can do is on an actual listing where you see the Keepa graph, you can just go up here to the find related deals, and it'll bring you over to the Keepa deals page. Okay, so let's go ahead and choose these really simple filters to try to find some potential books. So I'm gonna go ahead and say let's look for used items, and let's limit the drop interval. Drop interval means where the price of this item goes from, this amount and it drops. It goes from X amount to Y amount. So maybe it goes from 50 to 30. So when do you want to see that drop amount? Do you want to see it on today? Like, you want to see it today? Do you want to see it over a 3-month period, over a month period, over a week period? Let's just try a week period. Let's try that. And then over here, you have to actually select a range. How much do you like to spend each month? That's a good question. It really just depends on how busy I am during the month, because I have a full-time job. I'm a high school teacher. I also have a newborn son. I have the YouTube channel I'm juggling. So I would say, I finally hired a VA. So I would say the goal is to try to do at least $3,000 a month. So that'd be about $100 a day on average. My buy cost per book is about $28. So on average, it's about like 4 books a day. So that'd be my goal. I'm trying to get my VA. I've had him for about a couple of weeks now. I'm trying to get him to get to the point where he's buying 5 books a day. But yeah, that's the goal. It's about $3K a month based upon what my average book spend is. Okay, so select range, the drop percentage range. How much do we want the book to drop by? Let's just say over a week period, we want the percentage drop to be at least 30%. 30% or more. And the drop range, let's see. We want the drop range to be at least $20. Let's say we want the price to have, so not only would it have dropped by 30%, we want it to have also dropped by at least $25 or more. And then we want the price of this book to be between $0 and $21. That's fine, leave it at that. We want the sales rank here to be between, the min would be just 1. And we go to 1500 max. And let's filter by the drop. Like that. And then what we have to do up here is, these are all the different categories that found products based upon these parameters. So what we'd want to do is click the books. And so there we go. We have books that meet this criteria. Now, that doesn't mean that all these books are going to be worth flipping, that they're all going to be profitable. It just means that we have a haystack, and it's not like these are needles. It's kind of like, here's a haystack, and there are like mice in these haystacks. Like, you can hear them, you can kind of see them. They're not that hard to catch, but you still have to do a little bit digging. So not all of these are going to be great deals, but some of them will. So when it comes to third party, do you have better luck with FlipMine or eFlip? Third party. When it comes to third party, better luck with. Okay, so I think you just mean what software you would use. I definitely have a better luck with FlipMine, because what you have to understand is that the difference between FlipMine and eFlip, it's actually a fundamental difference, is that FlipMine is trying to find books on eBay that are undervalued. Not just books, anything. Trying to find anything on eBay that in comparison to the Amazon listing is undervalued. And so the way that you would make money from that software is buying something for less than what it's truly worth, and then just selling it for what it's worth. and then that difference in price is what you make money on. Versus where I feel like eFlip as a software, I definitely have used it and I found good books using it, but I feel fundamentally it's more of a software where you use to try to find books to exploit textbook season or seasonality, and also the prime gap. So something I mentioned earlier in the stream is that, and we'll probably find some more examples, is that a lot of the times you'll find a book that has a massive prime gap. Like the lowest use price might be $10 and then the buy box is $100. So that prime gap, the difference in price of $90, some people, that's kind of like what eFlip is trying to find, is a prime gap differential. And so the business model is, hey, make money buying the lowest merchant price and selling for the prime gap. But my point is that it's just a lot riskier to use that model because fundamentally you're not buying something undervalued. And so you're relying on this prime gap, which over time shouldn't actually exist for very long, because who in the right mind would buy a book for $100 Amazon Prime if they could buy it for $10 merchant fulfilled? So I hope that makes sense, but I've definitely used both. I find a lot more value personally in using FlipMine than I do eFlip. But I think eFlip, they have a textbook outlier portion of the software, which I think can be super, super useful though. So I don't want to just like blanket statement say eFlip's bad, because I don't think it is. It's just fundamentally it's used a different way. Okay, Terry, let's see. That was a great question, Michelle. And you too, Richard. I love these questions. This is awesome hanging out, even though, we're just a small community, but this is fun. Do you buy undervalued books even if the prime offers on Amazon have also dropped to the undervalued status? That's a great question. Yeah, I would say the more prime offers that are undervalued, like you mentioned, Terry, the less likely I want to buy that book. But let's say, for example, there's one undervalued copy and it's a prime seller, I probably would just buy that book, because then by buying, even if it's maybe $1 or $2 more expensive, if I just buy the prime seller, then all of a sudden there's no prime sellers at that price. But going back to what you said, if there's like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 prime sellers at this really low price, then I probably want to buy it, because I feel like most of the time prime sellers know what they're doing more so than merchant sellers are. That's just my opinion. And a lot of the times when you do see prime sellers that are kind of at that lower price, it's usually because they know something that we don't know. For example, if there's a newer edition book coming out, then you just see the price plummet and you see all the Amazon FBA Prime prices come down, then that's what might happen. But yeah, I would say so I hope that answered your question. If not, let me know and I'll try to answer it again. Okay, so here are the parameters that we set for Keepa. Let's see if we can find anything good. And again, I'm going to kind of just go through this quickly. What you'll notice is that I'll go over the listing, and in the bottom right, it's going to go ahead and show us the Keepa chart. And I'm kind of just what I'm looking at really is to see, I guess, let me actually open up a listing. What I'm trying to look at is this drop in price that's happened recently. And I'm trying to compare it to the used price for the past history, because ultimately what I'm trying to find is a nice level line of a really high dollar amount and see a drop, which would indicate that the book is undervalued right now. This is a book that doesn't display that, so I would just keep going. But here's an interesting book. Let's see, couple sales for 76, a sale for 108, couple sales at 69, maybe one sale at 178, couple sales down here at $20. And then all of a sudden the price dropped to $15. Now, this is interesting because this is actually a specific textbook to a specific college, Valencia College. And so inherently there's more risk in buying college specific books, because the only people who need this book are people who go to this university. And, we have no idea of knowing if there's a new edition coming out soon in this case. But look, this was January 2021. It looks like that's when this was published. But this is definitely interesting because, like I said, there are a handful of sales around $60 or $70, some sales back here at 22. And then the price right now is 15 or 16. So let's take a look at what we got here. We have thrift books, and then Glenn the bookseller. That's actually Books Run. And then look, there's this person here with 8 copies. So right away, that would scare me off. The fact that this one guy has 8 copies. That'd make me not want to buy this book, because if he's got that many copies, he can tank the listing pretty fast. The good news is he's not a prime seller. Looks like there is one prime offer at $44. So what I would say about this book is, I would bet you that if you bought one of these books, you could probably make money, but I wouldn't. I probably wouldn't buy this book because I think there's just a little bit too much risk with this book. No worries at all, Anderson. Let's see. Sorry if you covered this. If you're trying to flip a used copy, what parameters would you use for the new price? I often see that the new price is cheaper than the used copy. I'm trying to flip parameters for the new price. Okay. Great question. So I think what you're getting at is sometimes there are books that have a really high new price. Have a really low new price in that there's actually the used buy box is higher than the new price. In other words, how do I think about third-party new sellers? If the third-party new seller is an Amazon Prime seller, then I definitely am going to take into account what their price is because I'm competing against them. Ultimately, who we're competing against is Prime sellers to an extent, meaning there becomes a point where the difference between the merchant prices and the Prime prices are just too crazy where it doesn't make any sense for someone to want to buy the Prime prices. But generally, if the merchant prices and the Prime prices are closer to each other, you're really only competing against the Prime prices. So what I would say is that, again, you have to think of it like you're a rational customer, right? If there's an option to buy the book on Amazon new for less than what you can buy it for new or for used, then ideally you should buy the book new. But the problem is a lot of the times the new copy that's available is from a merchant seller, and it might take too long for them to get the book. So all this to say is that I think the way that I would factor it in is if I do see a new price, and I think the best way to show this would be with an example. So if we find one down the line, Anderson, I'll try to show you. But I think the best way to think about it would be that you definitely want to take it into account, but just note that it's actually possible to sell a used book Amazon Prime for more money than a third-party merchant new seller who's a third-party merchant seller. But I would want to take it into account. Like I wouldn't want to go, let's say the third-party new merchant 79. I probably wouldn't want to list my used book at 120. I'd probably want to stay somewhere around the new price because, again, I have to think like a rational human being. Wouldn't want to spend so much more money for the new price. But with that said, I definitely have sold plenty of used books for more money than the third-party merchant new sellers. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think what I would have to do is actually find a listing that has that to explain it. But that's a great question. Do you stay away if there's too many FBA offers? What number do you consider a saturated market? That's a great question as well. Okay. I think it basically comes down to looking at the Keepa chart, and maybe let's go and try to find a listing that would give us an example of that. Maybe let's just look at this listing, and let's open it up on Amazon. Okay. So I think the first thing that you want to do is establish what does the book sell for? Like historically, what is its value? For example, this book here, historically its value should be about $9 or $10 because that's what it's selling for. Obviously, this book shows seasonality. It looks like there might be a little bit of a textbook season for whatever reason in October where the price of this book went up and the used offer count went down. But really what you should establish is, okay, what is the price of this book selling for? And then overlay that with the used offer count. So for example, the reason why the price of this book went up is because the used offer count went down. People are buying the book. So as there are fewer copies available, then all the lower price books sell out. And now there's only, books that are higher priced that are available to be bought out. So when it comes to being too saturated, if I were to see the reverse of this, like let's say I wanted to buy this book, which I wouldn't because it doesn't really have any value. But let's just say the used price was like $40 or $50 here, and it was pretty consistent. But then all of a sudden we saw the used offer count not go down like this, but let's say we saw it go up, meaning we saw a lot more used offers come up. And then for me, that's like, okay, this book is becoming saturated. And theoretically, what should happen is as there are more used offers, there's more supply, then the price should go down because there's more people trying to get the sale, so they're competing on price. Now, when it comes to the Prime specifically, what I just do in every book is I just go through what the Prime sellers, where they're at. And if there are a lot of Prime sellers, right, then you have to take that into account and you have to price more conservatively. You want to price somewhere in that region. Whereas if there are fewer or no Prime sellers, like as is the case in this book, you can be a little bit more aggressive. So I hope that answers your question. Again, I'd probably need to find a specific listing for that, but that's a great question. Anderson says, how scalable do you think this business is with and without a prep center? That's a good question. I would say that you could probably, it depends on how much time you have. I would say that if you did this full time and you did online arbitrage using Keepa deals, FlipMine, Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, all these ways to buy books online, and you did this 40 hours a week, I would say that once you get comfortable doing this and you know what you're doing, you should easily be able to hit like 100K in sales. Now the question is, what would be the profit on 100K? Probably 100K in net sale, or 100K in sales would probably net you like $30,000 in profit. $25,000-$30,000 like after taxes. Because you have to take into account all the Amazon fees and stuff like that. But yeah, if you did this 40 hours a week, I would say that if you kind of know what you're doing, you should probably pretty easily be able to hit 100K in sales. And I guess the reason why I'd say that is I'm a high school teacher. I work 40 hours a week, and this isn't the only side hustle I have. I'm trying to do YouTube, and like this year, I also have a newborn son as well. So like this year, I'm going to hit 100K, and I probably, like I said, I work 40 hours a week, and I probably do sourcing maybe like an hour and a half a day. So what would that be? 7 times maybe like 10 to 15 hours, depending on the week. I do have a prep center though, like you say, which makes it way more scalable for me because I don't have the time to lug all these packages up to my apartment and then pack them out, like, pick, pack, ship them out like I used to. So I have a prep center. But the good thing about this model is that it's actually, not 100K sales per month, 100K sales per year. But the good thing about a prep center is that it's actually, in my opinion, if you're doing this model, it's cheaper to have a prep center than to not have a prep center. Because if you don't have your reseller certificate and you're buying books from eBay or Amazon, then you have to pay sales tax. And I'm in California, sales tax at 8.5%. So basically on a $100 book, I have to pay $8.50 in sales tax. Like I mentioned, my average buy cost is about $28 per book. So if you do the math on the sales tax, I pay about like $1.80 or somewhere around there in sales tax. That's what I would have to pay if I didn't have a prep center. But because I have a prep center in a tax-free state, and they only charge me $1.45 to list an item and send it to Amazon, it actually makes me money to send it to a prep center, and then I don't have to do the work. So that's one thing to consider, is that it is a leap of faith because you're putting all of your product and your hard-earned money at stake, right? And you're like, gosh, I'm never going to touch the books again. But once you make that leap of faith, depending on how much volume you're doing, I think it'll be worth it. But yeah, I think, Anderson, like I said, I think that for your first year, if you kind of figure out how to do things, I think you could do 100K pretty easily if it's your full-time thing. That'd be 100K sales, probably like 25 to 30K profit. And then I think if, once you get more advanced at that 40 hours a week, I think you can make more, definitely more than that. You could probably make 150, 200K and upwards of there. And if you get virtual assistants or people to help you out who can do the buying for you, then definitely it's like infinitely scalable. But then you also have to think about things like on your Amazon Seller Central, or on Amazon Seller Central, a lot of people have restock limits. So there's a limit to how many books you can send in as well. Terry says, I actually like doing the prepping, shipping myself. I actually do like doing it too. Like, I do send books to myself sometimes as well when I want to check out certain things. Like one example would be sometimes I buy a book on eBay and, I don't know, there's something I just want to check about the book to make sure they sent me the right book or something like that. So I send it to myself instead of my warehouse. So I still do prep myself, and I do enjoy it. I think it's fun, but it just does take a lot of time. And at this time, I don't have a lot of time. So as much time as I used to when I was younger. So, okay, let's just keep doing more sourcing because this is not turning into a sourcing video. This is turning into a Q&A video, which I love. It's great, but I'm not actually doing any sourcing. So I'm just going to keep going through these listings, and I'm just going to open up things that jump out to me and look interesting to me. So do I buy books that have a newer edition out? Definitely, I do. But I take that into account if there are newer editions. And a lot of times when I decide not to buy a book is because there is a newer edition. And generally it comes down to taking a look at both Keepa graphs and figuring out, is this older edition going to become less valuable very quickly or not? Some books come out with a new edition every year. In that case, I probably would not buy an older edition. because if there are new editions every year, really quickly that book's going to become outdated. But some books might only come out with a new edition every 5 years, every 7 years. So in that case, I definitely would. And I'd say in most cases, the books that I'm buying are older editions, usually one edition old. All right, this is just an interesting book because look, the price of this book right now on Amazon is $5. It sold 4 times for over $109. Now, is that actually, like, should that have actually happened? Realistically, that probably shouldn't have happened because you could have bought this book for $15 in the last 6 months. So for whatever reason, the price of this book in October went up to 107. You can see the used offer count went down quite a bit, went from 7 to 1. And here in July and August, there are about 4 or 5 sales, about $30. So this is interesting because the price of this book is so low right now. Let's see. Looks like there's an acceptable $4.95 free shipping. Who's the seller of this? This is Hippo Books. Hippo is just trying to get rid of their books, but this is also a merchant. It's not. And then there's that one copy out there for $8. So this is something that you might consider picking up because, I mean, it has 4 or 5 sales at $100. It's got a couple sales at $30. In the past, it's sold for around 10 or 14. I would say that I wouldn't be surprised if you made money off this book, but I think realistically, based upon what past data showed us, is that this book should really probably be selling for $15, $10 to $15. But also at this time, right, the used offer count is low. There's only 2 copies in stock. Back here, when it was selling for that amount, it was anywhere from like 7 to 10 copies in stock. So if you were to buy this book, you just have to, consider the risk associated with, well, what happens when more offers come on the listing? Probably what's going to happen is that this book's going to go down. And I mean, obviously right now it is down. It's at $5. But I mean, if you pick this book up for $4.95, I mean, I wouldn't do that because this is an acceptable condition. But let's say that was good condition. I mean, it sold a couple times for $109. I wouldn't list it at that. I'd probably sell for I'd probably list it for like $29.99, try to get a sale, make like $13. Well, it's a good question. $100, could it be a new book and not used? That's a great question. No, it's definitely a used book because if we look at this blue line on the Keepa graph, that's actually the blue line. And if you actually see it over here on the left, this is when Keepa tracked when this product was in stock, new condition. And then all of a sudden you see that blue line disappeared right around December. And what that means is the new sellers went out of stock or there was no other offers. So the $100 is definitely not a new seller. It's actually the used seller. Let me show you let me see if I can find an example of what I mean by that. So let's see. Okay, so here's an example of a book that has the blue line, the third party new, and also the used price. And we see the sales rank drop here at 125. So the question is, did the book sell for 123 used or did it sell for 284? And the answer to that question is, we don't know because Keepa doesn't track that data, but we can make an educated guess. And what I mean by that is, if we look at the used offer count, one thing that you'll notice is that when the sales rank dropped, the used offer count went from 6 to 5. So the book sold and there were 6 offers on the listing. Now there's 5 offers on the listing. So my educated guess is that the book that sold was the used copy. And if we look at the new count, then the new offer count didn't change at all. Now, that doesn't mean that it wasn't the new offer count because remember, new offer and used offer count just means how many sellers are listing the book. It doesn't mean how many copies are available. Like there could be only 2 offers, but technically those 2 offers could be 2 different sellers and they're each selling like 30 different they each have like 30 in stock. So it's not how many new copies are available, it's how many sellers are there. So yeah, in that case over here, this is definitely the used price that was selling at that. So here's a book that, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if you pick it up for $4.95. I think you could probably sell it for $29.99, but you might not want to buy it because there's more inherent risk here because, what do you get to sell it for if the used offer count goes up? $13.99, you're basically you're breaking even. But at the same time, there are no prime offers, and even if 5 or 6 more people come on the listing, none of them might all be merchant sellers, none of them might be prime offers, so you might just automatically win the buy box because you're the only prime seller. So that's definitely a book that you could probably make money on, but it doesn't make me feel all warm and fuzzy to buy that book. But I still think you could make money off that book. Okay, so this is also interesting. This book has sold a number of times for $48 and $44. And this book has been wild. Like the used price has gone all the way up to $300. But again, you can list a book on Amazon for whatever you want. Like I could list a book for $10,000. I mean, probably not. Amazon's going to pull it and say that it's a high pricing year. But the point is, you could list your book for whatever you want. That doesn't mean it's going to sell for that. So here's a great example of a book that, for whatever reason, the used offer price has gone as low as $31 all the way up to $400. But obviously, there were no sales there. So in the case where you see this really choppiness in data, and then also where you see no used offers, like for example, there is actually no used offers in this time, except for right here when it sold for $10 and right here when it sold for $45. What I would do is look further back into history and kind of try to look to see what is the history of this look like. And so for me, like I'm looking back 2019, 2020, looks like this book's historically selling for around $20. That's probably its inherent value. So right now, if I can buy it for 20, that's probably its inherent value. But at the same time, when it was selling for that amount, the used offer count was anywhere from 20 to 30, whereas now it's only about 5. So, we would think that the fewer sellers that there are on the listing, generally the higher the price should be, because the less pressure there is on the downward price. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, let's just go really quickly. Let me just try to find a good book that we can buy. So I'm just going to go through these really quickly. This might be something that's interesting. Okay, here's a great example of a book that I would have bought if the price was still at $10.99. So you see the price was $90.38 up until a couple hours ago. It dropped down to $10.99. It looks like it was there for a couple of hours, and then it went right back up to $39.99. For me, that's a book that I'd probably want to buy, because if I could buy it for $11 plus shipping, let's go ahead and just put this into Seller Amp, the calculator. If I could buy this for $10.99 plus shipping, so let's just call it $15.99. What could I sell this at? Well, there's a number of recorded historical sales for $75. Used offer price has been pretty healthy. There have been a couple of dips here where you can see that when this sales rank dropped, it was probably the book selling for $28 there. But if we go a little bit further back into time, like there's strong historical data to show this book was selling for, I guess, $20, which is not amazing. Amazon was also on the listing, but this is a book that I wouldn't want to buy now because the price I think is too high. That doesn't mean you couldn't make money on it. Like if you bought it for $39.99 and you just sold it for what it has historically sold for in the recent past, which is about like $75-$80, I mean, you can make profit on it. But for me, considering that in the past, this, Amazon was on the listing and the price of this book back in November was like $20, then, one thing we risk is Amazon today or tomorrow could come back on the listing at $20, and then we're completely out of luck, right? One good thing to note, though, is that when the book was selling, the used price was right around like $17 or $18. So at least that would tell us that if we bought it at $10.99, we would kind of still be buying it undervalued, honestly, because when Amazon was in stock selling it for really cheap, you still have to spend more than $10.99 to buy this book. So unfortunately, the price of this book went back up, but that's a book that I probably would consider buying without doing any of the other checks, like making sure it was counterfeit or not, things like that. Okay, so here's an interesting book. Apparently, we can buy this for $11. A couple sales number of sales at $70. To me, this looks interesting, but let's actually look to see if that's still there. So it looks like that's no longer available. So the price went all the way down to $11, but you can see that it's no longer available. So either Keepa hasn't updated yet, or the person who listed it, has already raised the price up, and Keepa just hasn't recorded that. But obviously, if you were to have bought that at this price of $11, I mean, you're probably selling this for, let's say, $11. You're probably selling this for at least like $40, $50. That's like at least $50. Good deal. If you buy Amazon from a different account and not your business account, that's a great question. Actually, don't have an Amazon business account. Maybe I should. I just buy my books from my general regular Amazon account. And one thing that I do is I use the Amazon Prime. Oh, by the way, I can't even sell this book. I'm not eligible. Maybe I can get auto ungated. Let's see. But I generally failed to ungate. Okay. I buy books from my normal Amazon account. I use the Amazon Prime Visa credit card, which has a $0 annual fee, gives you 5% back on Amazon purchases. and it gives you that back in terms of points. And so I use those points to then buy books. So if you're spending, $20,000 on Amazon buying books, then 5% of $20,000 is a pretty good chunk of change that you can buy more books with and you can make money on. So, I just buy it with I don't buy with a business account, even though maybe I should probably look into that, but I don't do that currently. Okay, let's see this book. $17. Okay, so this book is very interesting to me. I think that this has potential. $17.20, free shipping. Let's take a look. Now, why is this interesting to me? Well, you'll notice that it hasn't sold when two things happened. Between like early June to June 16, the book wasn't even in stock. So obviously the sales rank can't drop if the book's not even offered on Amazon, right? But then when this was listed on Amazon for about 119, clearly nobody felt that this book had that much value and no one was willing to pay that amount of money for it, right? Because we don't see a sales rank drop. You would think that this might be a sales rank drop, but it's actually not, because if you look at the value of the sales rank drop, it's about 1.4 million, and then it goes down to about 1.3 million. That's actually not a sales rank drop. A sales rank drop is when it would have a very drastic decrease, like when it goes from 1.4 million down to 400,000. Like that would be a sale. So interestingly, the price of this book has gone down to $17, and actually the sales rank did drop, so somebody did buy a copy. So maybe this person had 2 copies and now this is the last one left. Let's see, how many offers do they have? There's only one more in stock, so maybe one person bought it. And by the way, there's only one person tracking this book, so it could be that the person who bought this is actually somebody who wants it. And I would actually think that it is somebody who wants it, because to me this looks like it's some kind of book that like a collector would want, or Streets of Murder box set. So somebody probably wants this book. Now I am restricted on this book, but I might be able to get ungated in it. If you'll find that a lot of publishers are gated in, but if you have a good seller metrics, you'll get auto ungated in them. So I would bet that this is one of them. But the reason why I said that this is interesting to me is because when Amazon was in stock at $59.99, or when they were in stock here at, this is also in stock at $59.99. They were in stock for a short period of time, and there were a lot of sales for the short period of time that they're in stock, which tells me that clearly somebody values this book at $59. Now, obviously that's a new condition book. That's not a used condition book, but if someone's willing to pay $59.99 for this new, then they're probably willing to pay like $45 for it used. And so in this case, I mean, you might be able to make a little bit of profit, which, for me wouldn't be enough for me to want to buy this book. But I guess I'm just going through the reasoning of why a lot of people might look at this book and automatically say, no, I don't think you can make money on it. I think you probably could make a little bit of money on it. And interestingly, here in the past, there was actually no used offers on the listing, but it was selling like crazy for $59.99. So that's an interesting book. I wouldn't buy it because the ROI in the profit amount isn't high enough for me, but it just depends on your margins. You could probably make a little bit of money on it. Okay, the NRC waterproofing manual. Interesting. Okay, so look, new price about $100, $119 to $123. You'll see that the used price here. So this is actually going back to Anderson. I don't know if Anderson's still here, but here's an example of a time when the used price is actually higher than the new price from, let's see, December to June. So the question is that realistic? Is it realistic that someone's willing to pay $70 extra to get this, to buy this book prime, rather than they get it from a third-party merchant seller and get it a little bit later? I would say in some cases, probably it would make sense if the sales rank of the book is really low, like sub 100,000, 200,000. But the less often the book sells, the less opportunities there are for people to make that buying decision. So for me, my guess is that all of these sales are probably at $123. And for the people who are listing their book above $187, no idea why they did that. And by the way, this, there could have been, let's see, there's three used offer counts and then 2 used offer counts. So it could have just been 2 or 3 people who had a really high price that they're holding out there. And I don't know, they're just really stubborn with their price. Maybe they're still winning the buy box. Like maybe that's the reason that they're able to hold up there. But so what I would say is that, yeah, if there's a new price at 123 and it's a third party merchant, I'd probably want to list my book around that price. because again, I want to think rationally what a real customer would do, but that doesn't mean that the book didn't sell for $199, because like I mentioned, even though the new price is $123, somebody could have got the buy box at $199 as a prime seller, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. Now, the reason why I clicked on this book is because I think there are a lot of sales here at $123, which is the new price, and it looks like the price of this book's now down at $20. So, definitely if the data that we see here match the data previously, then in the used price was a much higher, then I would say this would be a totally undervalued book. You should probably buy it. But right now you actually see that there are four offers, or four in stock by this person here. So that's interesting. This book, I would say, is, at least in the recent past, is definitely, it's 50% of what you could have bought it for before. So it's undervalued in that regards. And in the past, right, for $120, this is definitely undervalued. And if we look back even further into history, this book is definitely undervalued right now. Question is, would you really want to buy 4 copies? Probably not, because the more copies you buy, the more risk you run. Now look, this book's from 2005, and even though it's from 2005, it's still selling pretty strong. So my guess is that there isn't a newer edition of this book. So, this is potential for a flip. The only thing that holds me up again is the fact that there are 4 offers here, and I don't necessarily want to buy 4 offers. I might buy one. Ideally, this would be 1 or 2 in stock, and you could buy them both. But I think that this would definitely be I think that you would make money on this book. That this would be a good pickup. Let's see. The other thing that I wanted to teach you all, show you, is that you'll notice that the book sold for 40 cents plus shipping. And that's when the price basically dropped from 75 to 40 cents. So, I mean, that's why you want to set a tracker, because if you were tracking this book for $10, like let's track it for $10, I'll track it for, a year, then you would have been notified. You would have gotten an actual notification here that would show up under the track feature here of Keepa. And I would definitely buy that book at 40 cents because, totally undervalued book. So when you come across books, I would also, I'd definitely set trackers, because imagine if this is the data that you saw back then. Let's see, let's try to get it all right here. Imagine this was the data that you saw. It's like, wow, this book's selling for $119. It's selling for a lot. And then all of a sudden I can buy it for 40 cents. You're like, dude, that's a crazy deal. 40 cents plus shipping, you're buying it for $5, and you're probably flipping it for $100. So that's the power of the track product feature, is that it can notify you about drops in the price of books. Let's see. Here's an interesting book. So this book was selling new on Amazon for $56. Price dropped down to $11. What is this? This is a Bible. Bibles sell really, really well, everybody. So don't be sleeping on Bibles. If you're going to like thrift stores and library sales, stuff like that, don't sleep on Bibles, because a lot of Bibles sell for a lot. So you can actually see that the price went all the way back up to 50. The used price went back up just recently. So it was basically mispriced for a very short amount of time. Probably somebody realized that they mispriced it, and then they just raised the price back up. If you do buy, would you need to send it to Amazon right away or hold on to it for a while? What would be your price? Are you talking about a specific book, or are you just talking about in general? If I buy the book from Amazon, I just ship it to my prep center. But the idea is that as soon as you buy the book, generally you want to get it into Amazon as quickly as possible so that you can sell it. The last one. Okay. Ooh, that's a great question, actually. So let's say, I think you mean let's say we bought all 4 copies. Where's that book at? It's right here. I think you mean let's say we bought all 4 copies. Would you send it to Amazon right away or hold on to it for a while? With restock limits, if you don't know what that is, basically Amazon is trying to control how many products people can send in, any individual person can send in, which is based upon factors like how often you sell items, because they just don't want their warehouses super flooded. So yeah, that's a great question. And this point, if I have had 4 copies, if I sent them to my house, I would probably I'd probably send in 1 or 2 copies to Amazon, and then if they sold, then I would send 1 or 2 more in, because like I said, I don't want to be taking up 4 spots for restock limits. Right now my limit's 1,000, which means I can have up to 1,000 books right now. A lot of people have a lot higher. It just depends on really how fast you move your inventory. And for me, since I'm a bookseller and I sell a lot of kind of longer tail books, like look, this book has sales rank that goes up to 3 million, right? I sell books that have higher sales rank, so I don't really have super fast sell through. Yeah, I wouldn't want to send all 4 books in. It's a great question. So I'd probably send in 1 in with the shipment and then keep the other 3 at the house. Once it sells, I send another one in. Probably what I would do is actually have 1 listed as a merchant seller, 1 as an FBA seller, and then yeah, if someone buys it on FBA, then I'd send another one in. Okay, let's just keep going. I think I'm only gonna do 1 or 2 more because I have to make dinner soon, and I gotta eat. And I'm sure all you gotta eat, especially depending on where you're at. If you're in Florida, it's 8:25. Hopefully you already ate. Hopefully I'm not keeping you. But so here's a book that's interesting, right? It dropped down to $12.99. It sold once in the last year for $96. Sold back here late 2021 for $99. It had a history of selling in the past for $100, but I would guess that there's a newer edition of this book because it just doesn't sell very frequently. So despite that large dip in price, I wouldn't look at this book. I wouldn't buy it. It just doesn't sell enough. That doesn't mean you couldn't make money selling it. It just means that I think there's more inherent risk. Professionally see someone interested in profit instead of just fast nickel selling. Yeah, we're all interested about the profit, Terry. We're interested about what are we actually making. I feel like so many sellers are like, I did 500K. I don't know. They say like, I did this amount of money, which is great. That's awesome. But that's also just, revenue. That's not profit. I want to know what's the profit on what you're making. So yeah, I definitely sell books that are higher rank. I think my average sales rank for my books is just shy of 1 million. So I definitely have slower moving items, but I'm definitely selling books. It just takes longer to sell them. But again, you notice that I don't just buy every book I come across. So, and you'll get faster at doing this as time goes on. I just went through 5 listings in the time I just said that. So kind of what you're playing is a numbers game here, and you're really just trying to get lucky. And I truly do believe you create your own luck, but you have to put in the work. So like I said, this is like a haystack of potential deals, and you have to pick them out. You have to do the work. Okay, so here's one thing that I really like about this book. Right now you can buy it for $18.15, probably plus shipping. We see the used offer count historically over the years, not necessarily the lowest, but it's also not high. And this is actually the best case scenarios. We want the used offer count to be at or below what it has historically sold at, right? Where it's selling for whatever its historical value is. And it's also at a low price. So we basically want the book to be at a low price where the used offer count is not high. We want the used offer count to be the same or lower. And so you can see that right now, used offer count is about 7. And when this book was selling for, when this book had a used offer count higher than that, selling for about $32, it was selling here $40, so $70. So let's take a look at this book. This has potential. Okay, so again, is this Prime? No, it's not Prime. So we have 2 merchant sellers in a repricing war. World of Books USA has 5 copies. Let's see, is this a repricing war here? Not really, because basically they just bottom out in price there. So, you can buy this book for $18 plus shipping. So $20 plus shipping. So it's about like 24.13 is what you'd buy it for. So what could you historically sell it for? I mean, probably pretty easily you would sell this book for $40. I mean, potentially you could sell it for more. So I probably wouldn't buy this book, but I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that it looks like this book is undervalued a little bit, and so there's potential for you to make money because it's a little bit undervalued, but not quite undervalued enough for me. Do I ever use Book Scouter to confirm wider value or try to ID a cheaper second copy? Ooh, that's a great question. I don't use Book Scouter. I just basically use Keepa, but I definitely do try to find cheaper copies using a website called Book Finder. Let me give you an example. So let's just look at this book here. Let's go to Amazon over here. So you can buy this book for $10 plus shipping. And it's actually $10 free shipping. And it looks like there's 2 copies at $10, then it goes to $23, then it goes up to $60. So this is a potential buy. I probably still want to buy this because of the historical data here where the price of the book's lower. But let's say you wanted to check this book to see if it's cheapest available. What I would do is click the ASIN. I'd copy the ASIN on SellerAmp, or I'd go all the way down to the bottom of the product details, copy the ISBN, and then I'm going to go over to a website called Book Finder, and I'm going to type in the ISBN or the ASIN, and then what it's going to show you is all of the other used offers on these different marketplaces. So you can see that even though the price on this book is, what was it, $10 plus 35 cents, it looks like that's not the cheapest copy available. You can buy it from Hippo Books on Albris. So look, one thing you'll notice is that a lot of these bigger sellers, they have listing software that basically they list it once and it automatically lists all platforms. So you can see that Hippo Books has listed their book on Albris and Amazon, and their prices are going to be a little bit different based upon like the fee structure and things like that. But yeah, let's say I wanted to buy this book. I obviously wouldn't buy it on Amazon. I'd buy it on Hippo Books because I could buy it for a cheaper price. Well, I guess I shouldn't always say that. Sometimes if this is just a little bit cheaper, like I said, I use an Amazon Prime Visa credit card that gets 5% back on Amazon. So it just depends on how the math works. But yeah, definitely you would want to use bookfinder.com. It's an easy way to see if there are other used copies available. And I find that a good amount of the time, Amazon's not the cheapest price available. I'd say probably about 50 to 70% of the time, Amazon is the cheapest price, but there's definitely room for you to buy books from other places. Hope that answered your question. What's up, Checkmate Flips? What's up, Seth? How's it going, man? I'm just about to end the stream, but it's cool to see the legend himself in here. We're not doing electronics and stuff, but we're doing books, eBay to Amazon. But I appreciate the support. Thanks for showing up. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, so again, here's a repricing war. I'm liking the background music and the live sourcing. Yeah, I mean, the background music is actually super simple. There's just like a little button. I'm using, I don't know what you used, Seth, but I'm using StreamYard. So I just did this like 30 minutes before. I was like, how do you stream? How do you set this up? But yeah, it's cool. How is it, everybody? How is the sound? Is it like too loud? Or is it, I have no idea. Can't even see myself. That's why I'm looking over here to the right. But yeah, I appreciate y'all coming by. It's been awesome. It's been fun. Yeah, I've been going for a while. I've been going for like an hour and a half because there are these amazing people in this chat who just have wonderful questions. So the music's too loud. Oh no. Okay, let's see if let's go ahead and I can come over here to, let's see, music too loud. I think it's under brand here. Yeah, it's under brand. Okay, so let's go and pause the music. Too loud. Sorry about that. But a very good style. I'm sure there's a, oh wait, there's a way. Okay. I have a brain cell. Let's go ahead and just lower the music. There we go. So that should be much softer. Hopefully that works. Sorry everybody. Okay, so here we're analyzing another deal. One thing right off the bat that I see is that in the last 6 months, like the used offer count of this book has definitely increased. So generally, theoretically, used offer count increases. What that means is the price of the book should go down, which is what we do see here. There's a repricing war, probably between at least 2 sellers. So let's actually just look at the sellers to see what's up here. So we have 1924, 1924, 1927, and then also right around that. So it's like 5 people in a repricing war. So would I buy this book at its current value? Definitely not, because while there have been some sales for like $80, there definitely have been quite a few sales for less than that. Like the book has sold for even cheaper than what we can buy it for today. There's some sales for $20 back in the recent past. And if we look back further into time, like probably the historical, like the real historical value of this book is probably around like $20. So I don't think buying it at this price is an amazing deal, but because we see this repricing war, something we might want to do, since there's 5 people on the listing, is set a tracker. So like maybe this becomes profitable at like $8, and so we set a tracker, we can get notified by email. How fast are you wanting to turn your books? Yeah, my average book rank is about like 950,000. So the goal is to try to sell a book within 4 months, but I found that the average is about like 6 months to turn a book. But at the same time, my average book cost is about 28, and my average sell price is 105. So I definitely have a high margin, but obviously the high margin is because of the fact that the book doesn't sell very fast, right? And so I have a lot of people always like tell me, why don't you just focus on selling like lower value books, because you can flip your money more often, right? Like if you take a lower ROI, which definitely makes sense, and you could do that. But for me, I'm just restricted on time. So it's like there's only so much time that I have. And so I want to limit actually the number of books I can buy. So that's why I strategically, like when I'm looking at these Keepa deals page, like I'm strategically looking for books that have high sales ranks, because I'm really trying to exploit these price inefficiencies on Amazon and eBay. And generally that happens when books sell less frequently. Hope that answers your question. Do you auto remove inventory after 6 months? I don't. I usually what I'll do is, because a lot of the books I do buy are textbooks, there is a textbook seasonality pattern for books. And basically the way I see it is I'm trying to sell books mostly either in January, which is textbook season 1, or in August, which is textbook season 2. And so there's basically 2 cycles to sell books, in my opinion, especially when you're selling textbooks. So I try to price aggressively for the first textbook season, the first book cycle. And if that book doesn't sell in that first book cycle, then I'm much more conservative with my pricing, and I lower the price to try to sell it for a profit. So I don't auto remove after 6 months, but after a year, if the book isn't there, I basically just try to sell it. And if I have to lose money, then I have to lose money. And it definitely does happen, but not, obviously I sell books for profit more often than not. I like that you consider having higher ROI if it's going to turn slower. Seems to make it worth it. Yeah, for sure. Like, obviously, if I'm making 30% margin, like this model would be terrible. I might as well just invest in the S&P 500, right, Seth? But or the S&P 500. But yeah, like I said, the ROI is like, on the average book that I'm selling is like 200%. So as a result, it's gonna take longer to sell them, because I'm trying to squeeze the profit out of fewer books rather than sell more books and get less profit. Do you have any experience with Zen Arbitrage? I don't, but I would love to try that software out, because I've heard a lot of people use it. I've used FlipMine, I've used S&P 500, yeah. I've used FlipMine, I've used eFlip, I've used Master Book Flippers a little bit, and I haven't used Zen Arbitrage, but I've heard people. I know that that's a software. I haven't used it. Maybe I'll make a YouTube video about it, but yeah. Okay, everybody, I do have to make dinner, because I have to make dinner. So I do have to go. I do want to just say this has been awesome. Like, this has been super cool to have people come out and watch. CA's a bummer now since Peter Valley left it. Okay, I don't Zen Arbitrage. So I don't know who. I don't even know who that is, but yeah, thanks, Seth. I appreciate you. Yeah, cheers, man. Have a good one. Roman, what am I making? I'm making ribs, pork ribs. You're welcome so much, MSEG. I know that's not your name, but I'm sure your name starts with an M, but you're welcome. I appreciate the support, and I'll see you in the next one. Roman, I'm making some sort of ribs. And Roman, how come you haven't commented sooner, bro? Where have you been all this time? Have you been here the whole time, Roman? You're welcome, Tom. Have a good one. Looking forward to the next one. Awesome, Richard. I'm glad you found it valuable. Have a good day. Have a good night. But Roman, I need to know, Roman, how long have you been here, Roman? For those of you who are still here and don't know, Roman is one of my best buds. He's not an Amazon seller, but he's still a legend. He's playing some League of Legends right now. Yeah. So Roman's a legend, but he doesn't. I'm trying to get him slowly into Amazon, but he's just chilling. I appreciate the support, Roman, as always. All right, everybody. Well, I got to go make some dinner. This was super awesome. I had so much fun and I learned a lot, and the stream will be even better next time. Have a good one, everybody, and goodbye.